What is up, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Anthony KT Wrestling. Welcome. We're going to jump right in for this week's episode of Anthony KT Wrestling. Now, before I jump in, usually in the last two episodes, I've either had one or two topics that I've talked about. This week, I've got a couple, and I'm excited to talk about all of them. So let's do it. Let's get into it. Let's start with Raw. When Raw is on Netflix, January 6th, like I talked about on my first episode, I'm excited for it. The different ads and the length of the show is something I talked about in the first episode. This time I want to talk about something that I read not too long ago, and that is when after a few months into Raw being on Netflix, when WWE is going on their usual, on one of their many usuals, UK tour. This is going to be their WrestleMania tour, and as it was announced, they're going to be hitting up a few spots for a Raw and a for a few Raws and a few SmackDowns while they're on this UK tour, and the possibility of Raw being live in the afternoon on Netflix is something I didn't even think was a possibility. And you know what? And that is because for as long as I've been watching Raw, and I've been watching Raw since day one, Raw is, whenever Raw went on the UK tour, excuse me, allergies. Anyway, so whenever Raw went on the UK tour, whenever WWE went on the UK tour and they hit up and there was a Raw that was happening in London, it was something that was always pre-taped. Like, for example, when Raw did the Saudi Arabia, when Raw was in for Saudi Arabia, obviously that was way pre-taped because they did that, I think, on a Sunday. Or whatever day it was in Saudi Arabia. It might have been, they might have did it on a Sunday. Anyway, I don't want to get into it. Anyway, so yeah, Raw was always pre-taped when they always did a show across the pond in another country, and then we would see it when it would air for us at 8:00, whatever time zone we were in. So we were always used to that, but that idea goes away after January 6th. That we could that if we're home on a Monday in the afternoon and Raw is in, say, like Scotland or in London at the O2 Arena or something like that, they go live, we could watch it live in the afternoon. Raw in the afternoon, live. That is awesome. You understand the possibility of freedom that comes with WWE and Raw on Netflix. The limitations are endless. Total freedom. I'm excited that's another thing to be excited about. There's a lot of positives with Raw going over the Netflix, Raw being on a streaming site moving forward. I am excited. I cannot wait. So yeah, Raw in the afternoon, live during their tour for the WrestleMania tour. That's awesome. I'm excited for it. I'm gonna definitely talk a little bit more about this and focus just on this in another episode. But for now, let's move on. Let's stay on SmackDown, because oh my God, SmackDown was, no surprise, on point. There was a lot of things that was popping off on SmackDown. I want to start with the big one, the Bloodline. We have our match. We knew it was coming to this. We knew this was the year for it because this storyline started. Now remember, this part of the Bloodline story started back after WrestleMania when Solo Sikoa kicked Jimmy Uso out and started bringing in his members, his family, his boys, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, Jacob Fatu, his Bloodline, a bunch of mercenaries, ruthless, take what they want, take everything. This is their Bloodline. This is a story that's been popping off for a while. I am loving this this part of the bloodline, book that we are in, incredible. In the 4 years that we have been going, it's amazing how they've been able to keep this thing going. It's incredible. But we're here, WarGames, OG Bloodline versus Solo's Bloodline. Now, each member in the WarGames needs 5. We only have 4 from each, so there's the possibilities of who will be the 5th members is possibly some current signees, some couple that got signed. I'm thinking Lance Anoa'i. I think he's one of them that just got signed, and I believe Haku was another one that's been signed. If that's the case, and that's what they're going to go with these two, if they're not going to go to Netflix and they're going to go right into the main roster and be part of these bloodlines, it's just a question of which goes where, and it could go either way. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. So I can't wait for that. But this whole bloodline, the WarGames at Bloodline Survivor Series, there's going to be filled, I'm sure, just Survivor Series itself, November 30th, 2 days after Thanksgiving. We're in for some surprises and some possible returns. I'm feeling like CM Punk is going to return at Survivor Series again, but be a little bit more active than he was when he did, because that one was just a major surprise. So, and now remember, we haven't seen Drew McIntyre or CM Punk since their Hell in a Cell match. So we haven't seen them in a minute. So they have got to be well healed up, and it's just a matter of time of when they're going to use them. But I am excited for when they come back and what they're going to use them for. If they come back at Survivor Series, awesome. I mean, it's either going to be either at Survivor Series or after Survivor Series, because we are 3 weeks out. We are 3 weeks out from Survivor Series, and I'm excited for this. Anyway, so moving on to the next thing, the Blackheart. The Blackheart. Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano. This DIY story that we've been telling has been great to watch them win the WWE Tag Team titles was amazing. It was that moment that we've been waiting for since they got back together. It was great, but but at the same time, it's also so messed up how it was just taken from them, from the bloodline. I mean, if you're gonna face the Tongans, yeah, that's it. At least for this story that we're telling with the bloodline, yeah, it's over. But doing that was necessary, because now we're getting to this part where Tommaso Ciampa is starting to bring out the Blackheart again. And just like for a lot of us who watch NXT, who saw this story play out in NXT when Tommaso Ciampa was slowly letting the Blackheart come out, and then he finally came out, but it didn't really get the payoff right away like it was supposed to, because he got injured in the process. But that's not going to happen this time. This time it's a slow cook. It's a slow cook. But we're starting to watch Tommaso Ciampa bring out that Blackheart in him. And when he does, I think we all know how this is going to play out. I mean, they could take it a different way from how they did in NXT. But if they're going to take this in the same route, then they're going to take this with Tommaso Ciampa eventually turning on Johnny Gargano, and the rivalry of Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano being played out in the main roster. The matches they had in NXT were timeless. They were great. And they had all different types of matches, but their matches were insane in NXT. So for them to bring that rivalry into the main roster, I'm looking forward to it. It's like the rivalry that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens had. They brought that rivalry into the main roster, and the matches they had on the main roster were great. They were insane. I love those matches. And that's what I'm feeling like that's going to happen for Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. Eventually, we're letting this cook. We're seeing how this play out. But what Tommaso Ciampa did to Pretty Deadly, I mean, he didn't tag in Johnny Gargano once. He took both of them on and damn. And it was just Johnny Gargano just sitting back and watching what was happening. And I'm sitting there going, okay, the Blackheart and Tommaso Ciampa is coming out. I feel like this is going to happen. I really do. It's a slow build. So this is something that possibly could lead into something going. It could be something more when we get into December. And then like a payoff probably happens maybe like a day one edition of SmackDown. Possibly. But getting back onto Kevin Owens for a second, let's keep that going. And let's talk about Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. This rivalry, the match that technically did not happen at Crown Jewel, and how they tore each other apart in and out of the ring, through the freaking table. Okay, so we get into SmackDown, right? And Randy Orton comes out, and Michael Cole is like, I was not expecting him to be here after the match they had. I'm sitting there watching SmackDown going, I was waiting for it. I knew that as long as Randy Orton could stand his ass up, he was going to show up on SmackDown. And that is exactly what he did. He showed up on SmackDown. And a little part of me, as he was walking through Gorilla, was hoping that Triple H would try to stand in and stop Randy Orton, but he didn't. Triple H stayed where he stays in Gorilla, watching the screen, making sure everything is playing out how it's supposed to. But anyway, Randy Orton goes out to the ring, in the middle of the ring, calls out Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, it has that look of like shock on his face that Randy Orton is doing this. Like, I don't want to be out here. I don't want to do this. I don't want this. That's how he's playing. It's like, I don't want this. And then Kevin Owens like, man, F it. And he goes for it. And then gets in the ring. They go at it. And Kevin Owens hits the pile driver. Now, the move is banned. He's doing a banned move and lays out Orton. Orton can't move. He's having a hard time breathing. He's practically paralyzed. He's playing it to be. Cody Rhodes comes out, checks on his fellow legacy leader. For all you who don't, for some of you, for whoever doesn't know what I'm talking about when I say legacy is an old faction that was started by Randy Orton that consists of Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Ted DiBiase Jr. And legacy was this thing where all members were all second or third generation second or third generation WWE superstars. And the song hit. It was a great song. It's like that song hit just like the Nexus theme song hit too. Anyway, Kevin Owens is stretchered out. Randy Orton is stretchered out, and we're left with wondering if Randy Orton's gonna be okay, and he is. And this is the build as we keep going. This is going to lead to something. This is going to lead to something kind of big, pretty big for Survivor Series. We got 3 weeks to Survivor Series. They're going to have their match at Survivor Series. I have no idea what kind of match it's going to be, but it ain't going to be no regular match. It's going to be some kind of match with a stipulation. Just don't know what it is. But yeah. So SmackDown overall was incredible. Great show. And to end this episode of Anthony KT Wrestling, I gotta say it. I am excited for it. It is about time. The Women's United States Championship. Yes, yes, yes. It is about time. I love this. I am just as excited as I am for the women in NXT who have a Women's North American Championship. Yes, good on them. Now the women in the main roster have the United States Championship to fight for. Finally, a mid-card championship for the women. Now the women have tag team titles. They have the main event championship. They have their tag team they have the tag team championship, and now they have this mid-card championship, the United States Championship. Now, I'm not being selfish or greedy when I say I want Adam Pearce this Monday on Raw to announce the Women's Intercontinental Championship, right? SmackDown has the men and women United States Championship. Let's have Raw have the men and women's Intercontinental Championship. Let's get this going. This is going to be great. We can have these tournaments both on Raw and SmackDown, and then at Survivor Series, we have 2 championship matches for Intercontinental. So Raw will have their Women's Intercontinental Championship, and SmackDown will have their Women's United States Championship. I'm speculating about the Women's Intercontinental Championship, but I know I'm not the only one thinking about it. You guys are right here with me. The Women's Intercontinental Championship needs to happen. Leave something in the comments. Let me know what you think about that. Leave something in the comments and let me know what y'all think about today's episode. But I am so happy that the women finally have a mid-card championship. The Women's United States Championship. Finally, another championship for the women. At least, I know Michael Cole said women of Raw and SmackDown, but Raw needs a Women's Intercontinental Championship. I will not get tired saying it because it is true. That roster deserves it. Let's make that Triple H. Let's make that happen too. You got this. Let's get that. Anyway, leave something in the comments. Let me know what y'all think. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, keep up when new episodes of Anthony KT Wrestling drop. I am Anthony KT. This has been Anthony KT Wrestling. I've enjoyed myself talking about some pro wrestling, at least what was been going on in for SmackDown and the Raw stuff. Oh. I do not want to leave without really touching quick on AEW and what's going on. Hurt Syndicate, leaving it out there. And what's going on with Jon Moxley and his new faction and taking over AEW. I am loving those 2 stories. I know I brought that up last week. I just had to bring it up again. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it on the next episode. But for now, I'm Anthony KT. This has been Anthony KT Wrestling. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace, y'all.